week, 2 months.
Uh-huh. You mean
Uh,
energetically or just what you've been up to?
I think energetically.
Yeah.
Let me just turn all this off so it doesn't. Um, yeah, it's God. What is the day? Well, the 24th was the big day. That's what Morgan came up with. I've talked to several other people. They said the 24th, the 24th, the 24th, and of course the 22nd was the equinox.
Hmm.
And we had a powerful session, Morgan and I, at the moment of the equinox, or it started at the moment of the equinox. But everywhere I turn, people are just telling me it's just been blistering energy.
Yeah.
But it feels like timelines are just dropping, dropping, dropping.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this timeline of what you represent and those like you is going to be characterized to a great degree. This timeline is the influx of the energy y'all are bringing, openly bringing, as opposed to holding the frequencies in silence. There's something about verbalizing it that really, I believe it's the most powerful code we have when we share whatever we're about to share.
Yeah. I agree.
So, where are you at? Are you in the U.S.?
Yeah, I'm in a little town in Oregon right now, and
Okay.
I'm not far from Mount Shasta. I'm on the Mount Shasta ley line, grid lines,
Oh, wow.
and that's a very powerful sacred site for me. It's a sacred site. I go there every year. I missed this year, but every year I go on my own, and it's my sort of my journey. So I have that. The town I'm in is very small, pretty dense consciousness. So I was guided to move here by Magdalene. And I knew when I got here I wouldn't have a soul tribe, I wouldn't have friends, and that was okay. I mean, I've moved on my own in the last 20 or four or five times, and often to places where I don't know a soul, but I quickly I made connections in soul family. This has been a real journey into isolation and alone, which I've spent most of the last 20 years in anyway, but this just sort of upped the ante. So,
Wow.
um,
And so, how long have you been there?
well, I've been here going on 5 years.
Okay.
Uh, I stay connected to I have a close group of soul sisters that I stay in regular phone contact with. But other than that, I'm here just. I mean, this feels like a coming out party for me. Really,
Yeah.
I've been in the void for so long in this death and dying process. I feel like, it's time to move out of Death Valley or something. And
Yeah.
I mean, I may make some visits back to Death Valley. We're all in this process, but it's not my primary residence anymore.
Right.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think we certainly still have shadows to reveal and transform, but it feels to me like, well, Morgan called the 24th the tipping point. Other people I talked to describe the same thing. Uh, the beginning of the 2,000 years of golden era, or whatever the different descriptions are. But yeah, I get it. I feel like that the creative process, which can be this, it can be Morgan's groups, it can be a lot of things, but it's like we're not on our heels anymore. We're moving forward. It
hmm,
feels like
yeah,
that to me. So,
yes.
and by the way, your friends that you keep in contact on the phone, they'll be the perfect candidates to come on here and come out as well.
Well, now that I've been the guinea pig and just there going, well, I'm sending an email. I want, and I said, good. I want you to. I
Yeah,
want this.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you mentioned a lot of moves, and you mentioned 20 years. You know how I haven't done this in so long; it's been weeks, but yeah. Have you always been this weird, or did you have a wake up experience?
Well, I guess like a lot of us, when I was young, I had, um, be preschool, I guess. I was playing with angels, and 17 light language came in, and 19 I was in TM, and then I got married and got into like a high-tech, patriarchal corporate career, and everything sort of went by the wayside. Um, and then in 1999, that was sort of the beginning of the end. I crashed and burned out of the career. 2 years later, there went the marriage. 2 years later, I moved to Oregon the first time, and I had a really big awakening experience. The first time I went to Shasta. I was coming in from the north side, from the north back route into Shasta. Hadn't seen it before. When I first saw the mountain, I the flow of Christ consciousness came in so strong. I had to pull off to the side of the road, and I kind of was stumbling around in the forest for quite a few hours, just getting code and download and a massive amount of light coming in. And then I was, I was kind of living on juice and light for a few months after that, and then I was called to move back to Southern California because I was transcending, but I kept crashing down into all these unhealed parts of myself, and I didn't know how to work with them or heal them or even, work with them. So within weeks of arriving in Southern California, I got into facilitation and some group work, working with my emotional body, and really started working with all these unhealed parts, sort of, I guess, called wounded archetype parts, like Amazon, matriarch, seductress, inner child, teenager. All the parts we're all pretty familiar with by now. And after doing a fair amount of that in 2009, I had a really deep awakening experience that left me pretty disoriented for quite a few months.
Wow.
I wasn't functioning. I was alone again, which was good, I think, in some ways. In other ways, in the old days, they'd stick you in an ashram for a couple of years, but I was pretty much just walking down to the lagoon and sitting on a bench for quite a few months, just trying to integrate it. And slowly that happened, and it's, that's just the beginning. That's the beginning of a lot of things, further openings. But yeah, that's kind of been my path.
So that's through 2009, and
That was in 2009.
yeah, God, that's a lot to unpack there. Well, there's so many things. I have such a curious mind. I'm all over the place here, but like, just the way you speak about it. I mean, you're so just matter of fact about it, like unaffected even. Did you, like, in 2000 when the first part started happening, and you were revealing all of these parts you were unconscious of or hadn't met or whatever? Did you have any guidance? Were you getting guidance as to what you needed to do, or were you influenced by maybe other people that were discussing it?
Well, after the Mount Shasta experience, again, I was out in the country living alone in Oregon, and, spending a lot of time in nature, really walking this path of aloneness that's been my path. We could talk about that a little later, but I didn't really know. I mean, I'd been in therapy during my marriage, but that didn't even begin to prepare me for as we've all on this path start hitting these deeper and deeper, really uncomfortable places in ourselves. So at the time, I was also in a second relationship after my marriage that was, I'll just call it twin-like. It was high vibrational. And in those kinds of relationship, a lot of all the unhealed parts get exposed. All this intensity comes up. So we were living in different states most of the period that we were together, but it was good because it would bring this material up, and I was on it. I mean, I was up for, standing in the fire and alchemizing this, but I didn't really know what to do with it. So when I got to San Diego and was involved in this emotional body healing work, then I was able to start dialoguing with parts, learning what they were, sort of not freaking out so much when I'd hit these deep, low vibrational, dense traumas, energies, whatever. So
Wow.
I don't know if your question. But
Yeah, this is fascinating. This is what we need. Like, for instance, just the way you discussing, it sounds like, just for clarification, you're having a conversation with parts of your consciousness that the human hasn't been conscious of.
mm-hmm.
And I know, I mean, I'm familiar with that type of explanation because of Morgan. I mean, meeting Morgan in 2015, and and I can't remember the first example, but maybe it was a pain in my back or something, and she said, "Well, pull it up and talk to it." And I was like, "What?" But I think that, like, in you discussing it, and I would bet you, like, your sisters that you talk to on the phone, and even people in her groups, or people like you, understand this and have been doing this, and I would dare to say, is it the most effective path to transforming from your perspective? For me, it's always felt like that, and even now I've been expanding that and having conversations with parts of me, past parts of me, future parts, that it's at a different level now. But I'm thinking about it this last couple of weeks, thinking, wow, this is so easy this way. Did you find it easy for you? Did you have to work at it? I mean, if somebody's like just getting into this, oh wow, can you really do that? Can I really talk to my 7-year-old, or can I talk to my whatever? Did you have to learn how to do it?
Oh, absolutely. I had no idea. I'm out of a therapeutic environment, but starting to differentiate the parts that are operating
Right.
really requires slowing down and sitting in the discomfort
Yeah.
and asking them, who are you? What's going on? Can you remember when this started? You just sort of learn how to be with them, and they'll talk. I mean, they have their own consciousness. They occurred at certain timelines in your life, or past timelines. Later, you might access some past timelines, and it's really just allowing yourself not to run, so
Right.
to speak. Stop
Right.
and be. Mhm.
Yeah, that's one thing that I remember distinctly in late 2019, learning to sit with my emotions. That was the first time I started to do that, and I discovered that when I sat with it and just felt it, like you said, it in a matter of minutes, it would just
Yeah.
like dissipate. It would just
Right.
kind of like turn into all these sparkles and be no longer be like a mass, a concentrated mass, be more scattered through my field or my consciousness equally, if that's a proper way to describe it. But anyway, the reason I bring that up is because of what you're saying and what I've just come into in my own way, I guess. I mean, obviously I've worked with Morgan, and I'm very familiar with some of these processes that you do and she does. But something happened in the last couple of weeks where I was able to have much clearer conversations with these different parts of me, whatever they may be. So, like, when you mentioned that too earlier about sitting with them, how does that go for you? Is it something that is a one-off, or do they come back? Are you working with different ones every time, or do you have to go back to some 2, 3, 4 times?
Well, the answer is all the above. I mean, in the beginning, because there was so much, I was still carrying a lot of density, and both awakenings gave me a larger container to hold these parts, I would say,
Right.
than the capacity I had before. And so, and back, when I started this 2007, it might take months to move through one particular issue, part, or whatever. Now, not just myself, but many of us, even those who are starting to come into this wave, so to speak, it's moving much faster.
Yes.
And it doesn't require, at least for me, and I'm noticing this pretty much from a lot of my encounters, it can happen pretty fast. Like you were explaining, for the last few days, weeks, you're noticing a very quick transformation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like what's different for me now, because like when you first, I think when any of us were humans, we were subjected to human conditioning, so it's like it's like just a natural reaction to kind of like push away anything that doesn't feel good, right? You know, it's like, and then you realize you can't divorce yourself from any, especially this is you. It's not even another person, it's actually you. And what I noticed the last couple of weeks is the conversations are, they're short, they're clear, and they don't feel uncomfortable. Occasionally, you know, I'll go, oh, ooh, remember that? And then I start to project it out or reject it. And then I go, oh, wait a minute, come back. And then whatever that trauma, whatever that experience was, but it's the same thing. That voice starts talking, and it just seems to be, and I know it can't just be me, but I'm just curious because you have people like you have so much more experience. See, another thing I'm really curious about, like, I remember when Morgan started doing these groups, I think in February or March, and we had done this together. She introduced me to it, this type of thing. And I was going, wow, this is going to be interesting because there's so much silence and so less guidance, really. It's more of a blend of the human conscious and cognitive with the, you know, like the meditative state or the dimensional state, whatever. But I'm curious because you're not the only one. I've noticed this in some of the groups that I've been able to participate when I've had time. These are people a lot like you, many of them, who have been in the game, so to speak, for a long time, like 20 plus years, right? Yet they're still coming to the well. But now, of course, it's like in that type of atmosphere, it's a group, open-hearted, pure intention type of situation, and so many massive expansions occur as a result. What given your track record for the personal work that you've done on yourself, and we haven't even got into the intel because I want to jump into that, like your story, but what draws you to the groups, to that type of situation? Like, what draws you to it, and what has sustained you in it? Like, I mean, obviously, you're getting something out of it, not just giving, but also receiving. And even when we were talking before the show, I said, yeah, I remember you. You're the one that never talks. And then you started talking like 2 weeks ago. And now you're coming out. But yeah, like what is it that, what do you see in all that? Is that, you know, because to me, it somehow or another represents what we are experiencing more and more every day, just in our natural life.
So you mean like Morgan's group, or just
Yeah,
in
like
general?
that. Yeah, like that type of atmosphere. Her group.
Yeah.
But you know, in other words, it's very atypical, even in light worker circles, in my opinion. You know, a lot of it was instructive, and you do this and you do that, and you take. You know, this is so for people that aren't familiar with the practice of it. You have roughly an hour, 15 minutes, maybe hour, 20 minutes. Most of that time is silence.
Yes.
Yet everyone is seeing everyone, for the most part, seeing each other in the ether, so to speak, while consciously awake.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm just curious, because of your history, someone like you, to tap into that, see the value of it, what are you seeing there? Like, what is it? What are you picking up there?
Well, huge. I mean, it's because of the container, because we're transporting to this new Earth grid that's developing, and there's, we've got all the galactic beings or whoever wants to come in, as well as the others in our group and the other groups. There's this field that's created, let's say, that allows for whatever wants to arise to, I mean, for me, I'll just talk about what I've experienced personally, and that is whatever Morgan guides us, whether it's the inner teenager, whether it's the son, the daughter, the parent, the whatever, the parts that were guided to work that day. I just sit with silence essentially in my mind and let whatever comes up. And every time an immense amount of discomfort comes up, right before, and this is what I've learned over 20 years, and I would guide people to pay attention to, right when it gets most uncomfortable is when you really need to stay with it. And so the discomfort comes up, something gets seen, and then it dissipates out into that circle, that field,
Yeah.
and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's almost every time. I mean, I've had membranes break, I've had dragons come in, I've had all these things come in and assist, but essentially the end result is a big wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, and that was what I was seeking, because what you're describing, see, 'cause to me, it has a feel like so many other things. Because it's intuitive, it's imaginative, it's spontaneous, it's not restricted, it's very open, and to me, that feels like what we're creating. So that's why I had asked the question, and I get the answer now, which is what you just said. If you apply, I apply that process, or that kind of a way of being, which is you feel something uncomfortable, and again, like I said earlier, we had this natural reaction just to push it away, or deny it, or ignore it, but to actually stay there with it, because and I think another way to maybe say that is we look at triggers different today than we did 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And we're not totally like welcoming them with open arms all the time, but we are welcoming them, and yeah, I think that's a nice little nugget to take away, take away from this conversation. I just got jolted, like for about 10 seconds there. I couldn't even talk. I felt like I was glitching. Yeah, so like, and I'm curious too, like, if you go back to 1999 and the first part of the 2000s, were you, before 2012 came and things really started to be put out there in terms of Ascension and so on, and the internet boomed really, were you in 99 and the years after, were you getting direct information that there was going to be an Ascension? Were you getting past memories? Were you having any particular essences or consciousnesses coming in and interacting with you, like galactic or angelic or elemental? And so yes, right?
Yes.
And I mean, did you question your sanity and all that other stuff? The whole
No. I mean, I had never totally abandoned my spiritual path, even though I was in that career for so long. That there still was some connection from birth,
Yeah.
and by the time I had moved to Oregon, which was about 2003, so a few years after leaving the career, leaving the marriage, I was out in the country, and that's when the visitation. I mean, Magdalene appeared in light body, and I started a mentorship into my divine feminine.
Wow.
Because I'd been in this male-dominated patriarchal career. I'd been groomed by my father to be masculine. So it took a lot of unspooling, and she really walked me through the process. I had Pleiadians visit, I had Pleiadian healings, I had UFO sightings. It all started to roll then.
Did you have anyone to discuss it with at that time?
Not, no. Maybe one person, but I, for some reason, it seemed so natural, and I didn't really feel like I needed to
Right.
broadcast it. It was just what I was doing. It was seemed very natural.
Yeah, that knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else I've been getting gradually over this year, but certainly sped up this past few weeks, which is, if you know something, you don't have to say it. When you say it, and I don't know if I have this right, but I'm only speaking for myself, but it's almost like you break the strength of it or something. You just know it, and you just, like you said, because it is natural. But we've been told it's all unnatural, and I love it. And I mention this almost on every show, but Morgan and I get messages every day on the Soulogy platforms, and the primary message or comment is, thank God I've been watching y'all for whatever time. I thought I was alone. I didn't know there were other people out there that were experiencing things like me, and so that must have been so difficult for those that started in the 90s and the early 2000s, before the big 2012, kind of set things off to a different level. But and back to these groups, one of the other things I've noticed is it, and I would like to get your thoughts on this. But it almost, to me, it, because I've done quite a few of them, and in many cases I'm the only male, and it seems like when I come a couple of 3 or 4 of those times that I instantly know there's a certain space I need to hold, or and then
Absolutely.
I see
Yeah.
all of y'all. I've seen y'all's faces on the light bodies before in those groups. But one of the things that I again am kind of intrigued about and watch is it seems like that, and I'm going to speak in terms of you all, or as we say in Texas, y'all, y'all, which is primarily women, okay, which is proportionate to these communities and such, and the whole thing. It feels like collectively, to me, and I'm not saying it's accurate, but it feels like you're anchoring stuff as it starts to enter the realm, say new universal energy or truth frequency or whatever you want to call it, whatever it may be. It feels like you guys are anchoring as it's coming in, and because I've too many times you get to the end of it and nobody said anything, but everybody's saying the same thing.
Yes.
I saw the same, like it's like a theme
Yes.
that you can't get away from.
Yes, yes, there is a theme, and they seem to move with the collective waves too. I mean, every time I'll be going through some sort of contraction, and then Morgan or a few others will post, and I'll go, "Wow, it's a wave, it's a collective thing."
Right.
And back to the groups, absolutely, when you're there, they're the masculine pole. Otherwise, David's holding it,
Right.
and there have been times that I really need that masculine energy and whatever is going on. I can feel
Wow.
how important it is. I can feel it in the circle. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, they're quite extraordinary. She talks about it. So she kind of did what you did, what you were describing in '99 and onward, which was like that self introspection and having, she developed all that, and then it would be, eventually when we met, she practiced Hieros Gamos for a number of years, and then we started doing it, and the same thing would happen, where you would have, you'd get to the next day or whatever, and you start talking like, oh my God, why didn't you say something? You know what I mean? And what's really fascinating about that is that it's even transferred over into the physical experience. Like we've had experiences where, I guess you would say, divine episodes, beings or we're shape shifting in front of each other, and we don't mention it until the next day, and you find, and it's very much like the group thing, where everyone's experiencing the same thing. Yeah, I figured that those groups are anchoring, which is speeding everything up for people. And she's mentioned that these things are happening, women's circles, so to speak, all over the world. Now, in terms of where we've been and where we're at, people talked about this 24th being so huge. I've heard it put so many different ways. I'm just curious from your perspective. I guess part of it is you're coming out now, so something's shifted. But how do you feel about where we're at today, given everything that's happened and the fact that we're so much more present in the present moment, so much more clarity? Where do you think we're at? How do you think we're doing?
Well, I think those of us that are sort of plowing the road here, creating the furrows for Ascension. I mean, this month period has been huge. The last week or two, the 24th definitely I feel like was a demarcation point. And again, if I speak from personal experience, because that's all I know, is it's a huge leap for me. Some huge leap occurred. I know September is a 9-month, that's a completion number. And I just feel things dropping away. I mean, they've been dropping away, but these are like realm shifts.
Yeah.
These, so big. and so complete. That's the word. What
Yeah.
I may have been dipping in and out of for completion is now so complete. I can't
Right.
even. I remember Franco saying when you start reaching a certain vibration, you don't even have those memories or recollections. Or I
Yeah.
feel that's where we are going right, rapidly moving into right now.
Yeah.
So, that would be my feeling about this weekend.
Yeah.
And where I'm coming out, like I can't, you can't shut me up now. I just am like, whoa, and I like
uh,
it. Finally, I'm just, I'm tired of being in this cocoon, I
yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
ready to come out.
Yes. Yeah. And yes, to Franco too. It's not a coincidence that on the 22nd was the last show we did last year.
Oh,
Yeah. So
wow.
we had done Soulogy Fest, and then he took some time off, and I think we might have done one first part of September. And but it popped up on my memories. I shared it. But and back to his intel too. Uh, you know, everything he said is happening, and it
Mm-hmm.
was never about this is going to happen and the this catastrophe. His was always about what's it going to feel like to us. And you're right. One of those things that always stood out for me was he said those things that occurred in the past, so to speak, they won't have a charge. They won't have any context. You might
Yes, yeah,
remember it, but it's not going to carry any weight.
that's
And
it.
and that's to me that's what's happening
Mm-hmm.
because they come in that we still have the things happen or trigger or whatever these things are disruptions. Yet just like the energy hitting us, how it used to knock us horizontal for 2 weeks, and now
That's
it's
right.
20 minutes or 2 hours.
Right.
But that's different. This is actually the functionality of the human changing
Yes.
because we're communicating different as a result. We're doing different things. We're aligning with what makes our heart shine or what our soul aligns with, and we're not carrying the energy of others anymore or
Yes.
giving ours away. Um, but yeah, this such I think there's 200 hours that he kicked out in the last year and a half. Him and Kimberly.
Mm.
That's just a living Akashic record.
Right. Right. Huge. Yeah. I
Yeah,
loved those. I loved it when he Franco Friday.
I know. I know. We did 52 of them.
Wow.
We did 52 of them, and then we did one private one um, that I ended up putting out. Um, I'll have to find that one because we weren't live. We were just. I actually had called him and said, "Hey, can we have a conference?" And I think I was trying to work something out. Which the funny thing about Franco is the few times, and it happens with Morgan a lot too, but not so much because she has a different perspective that I can't see, and maybe because he's a man he couldn't. But I would ask him the question, or I start to formulate the question, and I'd have the answer before I finished the question. And I guess it was because of the field that we had together.
Oh yeah. Makes sense. Totally.
Are you a
Yeah.
practitioner?
I had it first time I lived in Oregon. I had an energy healing, and I taught energy healing, little practice, and then that wasn't really my passion. I really value people that do that, and there's a real need for that. So that kind of came and went, and then I got involved when I lived in California most recently in partnering with horses. I heard a woman you talked to the other day that also works with horses have a lot more passion around assisting people to evolve and see their. Yeah, I've done so much emotional work. I have a real appreciation because horses are highly evolved spiritual beings, and um, they have a heart field that radiates out like 50 feet. The average human is about 2 to 4 feet. I guess I suspect light workers would be a lot more, but when you get on a lateral plane with a horse and get a person, their horse's respiration rate is lower, their brainwave activity is mostly alpha, delta, theta, low, a person entrains to that, and it brings them into coherence. And then with the horse free and at liberty and the person interacting, the horse can mirror what this, maybe there's this teenage part, maybe there's a self-critical part, maybe this. And I find people that have trust issues or hard time opening up, people on the spectrum, the response with an animal, especially particularly horses, is phenomenal in
Wow.
healing. So I had a lot more passion around that. I'm not doing it now. I'm a caregiver for my brother, so that's kind of, restricted what I'm able to bring out in the world. And I feel like this is my coming out party, like I'm making a declaration to the universe. I'm ready. I renegotiated that contract for, sole contract of caring for my brother. I'm here still as a, in a place of unconditional love, but I'm saying it can't restrict me anymore.
Right, right.
I need to be able to, I need to be able to be of service in a much bigger way than just, being in my little home ashram and transmuting and spreading code around the area I live in. So
Yeah. So you're near Ashland?
yeah, I'm a little north of Ashland.
Okay. Yeah, I'm house sitting for Tim Smith, and he called me. He's been on a little tour, business and intro, self work. But yeah, he called me. He was in Ashland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we drove through there a couple of times, Morgan and I, in 2019. It's a beautiful area. And it is interesting too, though. Like you were talking about the density of the town you live in, which is interesting because Oregon, it isn't consistent, right? I mean, there's like real progressive. It's like, you know what I mean? And then it goes to the other, because it has some of that kind of libertarian, like in Arkansas, like, just don't tread on me and mind your own business kind of thing, and don't give me your dogma and all that.
Right.
But it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Some of the beautiful, most beautiful beaches I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And now, obviously, there's been a huge, the presence of the Mother Goddess, of the Divine Feminine, in my mind. Of course, it coincides with meeting Morgan in 2015, but I can't really recall what people were saying prior to that. But I know by 2015, she's landed in Mama's home, hurry up men, and this whole kind of thing started with and of course the women. I remember back in those days, 93% of Soulogy was female, and now it's about 72. So we're coming. Don't. But so you had that whole thing happening, and then it, those like Morgan talked about how in the first part of the year she finally fully anchored. So divested herself enough of the programming and roles and all that, and then the school of thought being, which makes total sense to me, the golden child energy anchors, and then these last 3 months has been the masculine energy anchoring, and it's been a pretty wild summer. And but yes, been it sure has. And but like she talks about how this last 3 months of the year, kind of like all three parts start to work together in the physicality. Renata Irene, that was on a couple of days ago or yesterday, she talks about it in the same way. I mean, the same thing, just in a different way. I've seen other people kind of talking about it. I like Morgan's explanation. It's easier for me to understand, plus I'm pretty biased. But that feels right to me. That feels like this can now happen because of those things that we've let go, or the timelines that have collapsed, like our true essence, our true being, and as within, without. So I'm really excited about the rest of this year, and definitely super excited about 2023 and 2024. I just feel like we're going to have a dream state existence.
Yes, I completely agree. I think all this grueling work we've been doing, there's a little more to come. There's bits,
Yes.
and I feel like we've just crossed over some big threshold I can feel it inside me. I can just feel, um, you know, as I said, I worked this divine feminine, bringing that in. That took years. Then I had to anchor in just in the last few months the divine masculine, the healthy masculine, not the immature wounded version.
Right.
Bring them into sacred union inside me.
Right.
And now they're so integrated. They're so as one.
Right.
That there's this flow out, and I feel like it's my divine masculine actually that answered the call to be on the show. But I feel my personal field of creation feels like it's percolating and crackling,
Yeah.
just coming alive, and it's ready. I mean, I'm beyond the birth content canal. It's like I'm looking out, going, okay, I'm ready. Where is it? We're ready.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel really excited in a way I haven't ever about what's this next period of time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I mean, everybody had their wake up experiences different ways, and you know, we all went through these different phases. Like, you know, like you wake up and then you want to tell everybody, and nobody will listen to you. They think you're crazy, and then all the different things, like the aspects of us that we saw outside of ourselves that we start to embody. But this masculine, feminine, full anchoring, the tandem. You know, when we did the little session the other night, and I'm sure it was both personal and collective, I saw my blue Taurus field hover next to hers, and then eventually, after some adjustment, they came together. And to me, that was kind of indicative of what people are talking about, one way or the other, and what it actually is. And like she says, now we got to figure out how it works.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because the shoe's not going to drop.
Yes.
You know, it looks like we're getting a lot of assistance in terms of things that don't align with us, not right or wrong, but just different vibrations, different tribe, whatever you want to call it. They're not coming in and impacting as easily, right? They're just not as abundant. It's like we're getting help. Maybe that's that third energy or something. I don't know. Do you feel like that? And I guess to finish that, to conclude it, I was just saying that all through the years, we always have those moments of, am I just crazy? Even up to a week ago or a month ago. But we're not crazy. This is really going down. I mean, this is wild to think of, like your individual experiences, like with Magdalene coming in a light body, or Morgan with Merlin, or my own situations that I've had, like so many people. The things that were like, some of the things we don't even want to tell people because they'll think we're crazy. But you take that and you extrapolate it to a collective awakening or a collective experience. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like we're walking in a divine episodic atmosphere. You know, where divine intervention is the norm.
Yeah, well put. Well put.
So now, and here's the thing too. You said you feel like it's your masculine that has made the move, right? Like and I see that. I see that, particularly obviously in women. I've noticed Morgan, like when she just something happened. She just started coming out with these groups, and you know, and you could see it, you know. And so I think that that's very important for us to remember, because it's been such a difficult thing to figure out when you have male, female, masculine, feminine, and the old stereotypes and the things that we're not aware of, that we're not as familiar with yet. The real relationship, like you said, the two divines. But I think we're more than on the precipice. We're actually dipping our toe in the water now.
Yes, yeah. From a different seat of being, way more solid, way more implacable. You know, the turbulence may come, but we ride ourselves much quicker.
Yeah.
We're just flowing with it now. You know, no thought, it's just moving with it now.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I feel like you know, like I've taken my hands off the steering wheel, and the divine self-driving car is just taking over.
Yeah.
You know? where
You're
off I go.
you're
And
like
I
sure.
don't
Yeah.
care where it goes. I know it's going to be fun.
Well, I remember getting this 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago. I can't remember because obviously July and August were, I don't have much prophecy at all, but I kept saying the summer's going to be hot, and it was. It really was. But I remember getting something 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it was along the lines of, regardless of the decisions you make, being us, our higher selves, our soul, is still calling the shots. And even if we make decisions that kind of move us away, it's going to move us back. That's kind of where we're getting to now. It's almost like, the ball's in play and you push it back in. You just keep it like that from a higher level. And that to me is pretty important because we have had a history of judging ourselves, judging each other, kind of killing it before it grows, kind of thing. In so many parts of our lives because we weren't encouraged or it just wasn't set up that way. But now it is, and I think a lot of people are starting to build things together. Are you looking at anything like that or feeling anything like that, even if you don't know what it is exactly?
Absolutely, yes. I am feeling something, and I am. There's a knowing that there's some contribution in a bigger way that I'm moving into. Don't know what it is yet. I know what I love, and the hands are off the wheel. And when I hear what people like Jason Estes, what he's getting off, really out of production and into the market, and this person that it's phenomenal. It's starting to happen. I think even Frank even talked about that too. It's no longer in the closet or in the background.
Right.
Inventions, just all sorts of I don't know, golden age. Golden age is. I just feel it's here.
Yeah.
It's the things are arriving. They're coming into form, I guess I would say.
We're going mainstream.
Yeah, we're going mainstream.
That's my goal, is to put those of you like you, our goal is to make it mainstream.
Yeah, thank you.
God, and I see this because I do study podcast. I always have to see what people talk about, see what the energy is like. And I've said this for the last couple of days. I'll stop saying it, but I've got a playlist of 50 podcasts. 2 of them are feminine, and it's not because I'm not aligned with it. It's because that's all that's out there, and it's not just the host. It's the content. All the content. The best way I could describe it, pretty much, is all pretty much a byproduct of the patriarchal. Wow. So they're discussing issues that are really irrelevant more every day. It's almost like they're running out of things to say, and I'm watching some of them kind of go like that. So I know, just as we empty the vessel and it gets filled with a more pure or divine part of us, it's got to be the feminine, right? I mean, it's got to be the feminine, whatever that looks like, and however that's verbalized. What else would it be? It's and we just put this call out too. I think last week I did a 45-minute, which you responded to. I did like a 45-minute solo, and said, "This is, if it's time, come out." What's interesting, I got, I think, 10 more yesterday.
Wow.
And 3 of them were men.
Wow, good.
Yeah. But men, I have a feeling, and we'll see as they start to come on, not that we've never seen this on this channel, but that part of them that hasn't been able to speak, I guess, is how I'd put it.
Right. Yeah, giving everybody a platform for that, because everybody's needed,
Absolutely. There's no head of the table with the round table of spirituality.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I have to ask you about, first I got to tell you, it's wonderful talking to you. Your energy is just really nice. It's a lot like the energy in those groups, because it's such a strong feminine. But I have to ask you about Mount Shasta. We went there, I think twice. We've been through there. Certainly very extraordinary, like Sedona here.
Yes.
Certainly has duality as well,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm so intrigued by the inner earth family, especially after Arkansas and the mountain and everything else. And I don't know if I've talked to Franco about this, almost like there's a block, or it's almost like there's a veil. I can't put my hand through it. I can feel it, and it's really strong with this inner earth thing. Now, you talked about coming there and then being hit with the Christ consciousness and then going there by yourself for year after year. Do you have any sense of telos or inner earth? Do you have any communication there, or even with the elementals or nature beings?
Well, a couple times I was up on the mountain by myself, and there's this one area a friend of mine had told me that she had encountered the telos there, and so I was in that area. Did I see them? No. Energetically, did I feel them? Absolutely.
Okay.
I did, and they're strong, and I feel them coming. We're all coming together. Closer and closer in vibration, so that they can appear, and there's a coming together there, I guess you could say. So yeah, that was definitely present in a couple of my visits.
Yeah. Have you ever? I'm just curious because you have such a wide birth of experience here. I mean, have you ever been scared with any of these, in any type of, let's just say, dimensional experience or visitation or energy?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
No, I maybe I've been fortunate there. I don't know. No, I mean, again, I've been living really. I'm pretty remote here. I was really remote the first time I was in Oregon. I mean, I was really out there, and I had a lot of visitations. And I think there was always just a familiarity of already knowing
Right.
who was visiting or what was visiting. So there was an energetic acknowledgement or knowing.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't had any. I haven't had any fear.
Have you ever had, or like, what is the one incident that just kind of blew your mind, where you're like, holy cow, like, wow, like anything like that?
That would probably be, again, the first time that I was in Central Oregon. Again, the one that was way out in the town. That was, got really, really, really sick, and I later found out I had pneumonia. Somebody called me, and I couldn't hardly talk. I could hardly breathe, and they said, "You need to go to the hospital." And I said, "No, I can't go to the hospital. I'll die with all that equipment and those machines. I'm not going there." And so I went and laid down on my bed, and I was struggling to breathe, and went into the bathroom, and was sitting on the toilet, and my cat came in and started jumping all over my shoulders and around, and she was in a panic. So I got up and looked in the mirror, and I was blue. So clearly things were going downhill pretty quick. So I went and laid down, and I think I was on my way out, and the Pleiadians showed up. I mean, they showed up in light body form.
Wow.
And they told me this was a transition point. If I wanted to go, I could. I haven't told this story. This is maybe this third time. There's only two other people I told this story to, so this is big. But I'm very unself-conscious. I mean, I couldn't even talk in a Zoom group a year ago, and now I'm out here. I mean, this is incredible. So anyway, they came, told me I could go, showed me how to transition out the chakra system. They gave me all the everything, and for some reason, I said, I don't know why, I'm not real happy at this point in my life, but I'm staying. And they put me in a chamber, blue, with blue light. It was, you can't really describe these things, but they sort of ran me through it. The blue light did some massive healing transformation or whatever. And then they left. And I started to recover rapidly after that. I did go to the doctor maybe a week later when I was able to drive and move again, and she confirmed it was pneumonia. But yeah, that's probably the one that was most, at the time, pretty wild.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, I'll say. especially being in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, the Pleiadians seem to really be like the most direct, maybe overall. I know some people have certain, but they just seem to be like the most direct facilitators. And I know I had mentioned last month I was seeing a lot of blue, and that happens from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are wearing the blue, and you got Pleiadian all over your forehead. But other people were mentioning the same thing, that they were seeing a lot of blue. Even when I got here a couple of days ago, my friend, who's basically an ET, he's the one that comes on, and he's a cartoon character, so he can remain anonymous. He said, I had 9 Pleiadians, just like with you, show up in their light bodies in my bedroom this morning, telling me, this was right before the 24th, and they were telling him about the 24th. But yeah, so that seems to be something that you see a lot of, people mentioning the Pleiadians more so than some of the other ones. God, it's fascinating. Do you think, I'm curious, someone like you, do you, straight up, do you feel like we'll be teleporting in our physical bodies in the future?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the physical separation, because like even in Morgan and I's situation, obviously I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I don't think she liked it either, but we understood something was happening. And we all follow that guidance. But there's something about, there's always multiple reasons, I guess, multiple purposes, but that I can't really put my finger on it, but there's something about being, the illusion of being physically, geographically apart, that's lending itself to us being able to actually, any of us, be together. There is no space, basically. Mm-hmm. And so that's pretty exciting when you consider maybe it's the vertical axis of the Earth, or whatever that moment is, 123 degrees. My brother was telling me yesterday that certain things are going to be common. And maybe that's going back to the Franco thing, where, going to the Italian restaurant down the street, or, any of these other things that may have even been enjoyable that happened are no longer going to have any context, because they're not going to be in our reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you've shared a little bit about some of your experiences with Morgan since she's been in Australia.
Yeah.
The teleportation and
Yeah.
all. And so you're getting maybe on the forerunning edge of a taste of that.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that that's coming.
I believe it 100%.
Maybe sooner than we think. I don't know,
Well, that's another thing. I remember, I think Jason came out on Soulogy. He came out like you're coming out now. He came out, I think it was October of 2019. And so we did a lot of shows together. And then Franco came in and we started doing a lot of shows together. And other people too. And they would talk about 2035, 2050. And I never felt right to me. It didn't feel right in terms of it would take that long. And it didn't feel right in terms of almost like the power of suggestion, like an overlay that I'm going to pick up, or a belief I'm going to pick up. So I would ask them over and over, and pretty much, and I was always quite impressed that we continually accelerated the timeline.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we're at. I can't see. Franco said that we would be ruled by councils at all levels by the end of next year.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That part, almost at the end of 2022, and so that's a year away.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for that. Boy, I know we all are.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like, there's a lot to do between now and then.
By human standards, by the old human
by
standards.
linear human standards, and because everything's in such a state of collapse right now,
Yeah.
it's not that far of a grasp or reach.
Right. Because look, we're all being stripped to nothing.
Yeah.
So as within, without.
Yep. Right.
So it's and he did say too, 10 days before the election in whatever year that was, 2020 or 2019, that we had chose, well, afterward he said we had chose the blue path collectively, all of us, because it would go faster. It'd be a little more rugged, but it would go faster. And I think like what my friend here got from the Pleiadians, and what I've seen a few other people basically commenting and posting, is something along the lines of, and again, metaphorically, energetically speaking, things could get real distorted. They could get real from a human linear perspective, but everything's fine. Beyond the what we've seen in the past or felt in the past, that literally, like she said, we hit the tipping point. So whatever you see, just hold the light. Stay in your power. And I think after all this time, that might be fairly easy for us to do. Some of us.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And because of the tipping point that so many of us are feeling right now, and how quickly this has happened, I can see things going that quickly. And
yeah.
Just my little interactions around where I live. Again, this is a fairly dense consciousness, really conservative area. And what people are saying, a lot of people that I interact with, we want an independent.
Right.
We're tired of this division. We're tired of the parties. And these are people that have been pretty strongly Republican.
Right.
Because I'm in a right-wing area. So I'm seeing cracks in the armor here. I'm seeing cracks, fissures in the seismic field, so to speak. And so I'm going, this could tip pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the other things that we've learned to do is we learn to read the experience, more with more clarity. We can see the dots connecting, like the way things happen. They may seem unrelated, but there's a certain theme to it. And so we did this merging on the equinox, so it would have been the next day. Morgan and I were talking, and she was talking about trust. She felt like trust was coming up. Yeah. And so the next thing she does, she goes into a group with y'all. I couldn't go to that. I think the only male that was supposed to go to the group, he couldn't go. He sent her a message like 30 minutes before, and she said that they went into it, and it was just like so emotional. It was all about trust. It was all about trust from the feminine perspective, which makes total sense, right? And it was so strange because she relayed that information to me, whatever, and I was just, I think, laying in bed, just doing what we do sometimes, just kind of following where it leads me. And I came across this, and I don't watch a lot of this. I watch bits and pieces of everything, but it was Trump being interviewed on Fox 3 days ago or something, and it was an excerpt. And I listened to about 4 minutes of it, but there was one part in there, and it wasn't because it was him, and it was just the energy speaking, right? And he said what you're saying. He said, regardless of all this stuff that we're talking about, people don't trust, and they're not going to put up with it anymore. So in other words, that trust that I think people are talking about is actually, I guess you could say it another way, we gave our power up. I'm trusting you to deliver for me. And if you don't do it, you're a bad person, kind of thing. Like that whole thing's going away. Pedestals, superiority, idolatry, whatever. But yeah, that's the way I look at things. I look at it like, okay, if you're taking this out, what's left? And basically, it's just us now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting you bring up the trust theme, because I was in a little mini market or something getting a bottle of water, and these couple of women, kind of rough, buying a a 12 pack of beer or something, and talking to the cashier and saying, we don't believe anything that's on the news anymore. We just think it's all BS. And I'm going, wow, people really are at all levels.
Yeah.
There's the trusting, you know,
Yeah.
not just in our world, it's trickling down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's encouraging.
It is encouraging. And it's moving very, very rapidly. Yeah. That's why and again, I know I sound like a broken record, but I really believe that the throat chakra, I've always believed that the throat chakra was somehow key. And I never really understood it, you know, with the work I do, with the music, with, you know, everything, what you're saying. But it's because the throat has a physical property, but it also has a non-physical properties, right? Like resonance and just sound and such. I really believe that these types of exchanges are the most powerful code sharing we can do.
Yeah.
The more frequencies that we have, the better off it is. You know, and I've seen it over the years happen over and over and over again. So I'm really excited because even though we've had many, many women and some men come out on this platform over the years, something is different now. There's and I don't know if it's going to be this way or if this is an accurate way to try to describe it, but most of the women that have come on for the first time, this show ever, whatever, they're pretty nervous, and you just seem to have a poise around you. I know you've had some nerves, don't get me wrong, and I think maybe that's something that we're going to see more of, the confidence and assurance within themselves, which by virtue of that alone is going to alter the field in a higher level of alignment. Mm-hmm. Because they're not scared. They're not scared anymore.
I agree. It ripples out. You know, it starts with one and then it ripples out. And I think for me, I mean, I did a lot of public speaking in my career.
Okay.
And in college, again, I'm an introvert. I like to stay in the background. But in college, I took a speech class purposely to get myself out of the nerves of being up in front of people. So that's one thing to be in, you know, in your career speaking about the material you know about. It's another thing to come out and talk about a lot of what we're talking about today. However, now the way that I'm coming out or talking or being is coming from such a deep place where there's no self-consciousness. Yes, was there some nerves? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I want to share with people that might be on the fence and wondering if maybe shouldn't I would say yes, because, you know, I was just told, and I did talk to one soul sister yesterday, it was just flow, talk about whatever. There, no agenda,
right.
No strategy. The important thing was simply for me to do it, period. End of story, just do it.
Yeah.
And so I just really would love to just, you know, heartfully put that out to everybody, and just see what happens. It's fun. It's been so fun, and you're so easy to be with. So I think people will enjoy it.
Yeah. Wow. Feeling into that. Yeah. When I got out of here yesterday, and I was headed to the house, I just had this feeling that today everything would land. Now, we've been doing this too long. We all know that you don't just flip a switch and everything's... But to me, it really felt... Well, going home, it felt like everything would land tomorrow. And then I woke up today at 6 and was having lucid dreams. And the lucid dreams were of, you know, Morgan and my children and different players, but everything was in the right place. It was weird. It was like the experience was like there's nothing to do but just be here. And I kept saying, like, I saw my kid and I'd be like, "Oh, are you doing okay? You need to get a car," or, you know, or whatever it was. I was looking for things to do, but there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
And I was like going, "Wow, this is weird," you know. Yeah. So that went on for like 2 or 3 hours. So I don't know where we're at today. I think it's not a coincidence that you're the first one on the first day. And we had a couple this weekend. Those were ones I set up. but Morgan, Monique, and I kind of came together. Let's get this thing back going. Vacation's over, and here's what we're trying to accomplish. And you're the first one on the first day. So I think that's significant from an energetic standpoint and a symbolic standpoint. So, and I just looked at the, we've been on 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 10 seconds
Wow.
right when I said that. But yeah, I can feel it, and I'm really honored to be here with you and to be back on this horse and with all of us. We've done it, and it's
Yes.
just going to get better and better and better. Really is. I hope I get to meet you one day.
Me too.
Might pop up to Mount Shasta at some point.
Well, if you do, let me know, because it's such a quick drive for me. I would love to. I just, feel a very strong soul connection with you and Morgan.
Yeah.
And I've been watching you for years and years, and you've been my lifeline, because I have been alone quite a bit, and the show and the people that have been on. So, yeah, I'm sure our paths will cross in the physical
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
I have friends in Sedona, so there may be a visit there. I don't know if you'll still be there, but
I don't know anything. I'm just like, I had all this stuff going in my head last week, and I just knew, don't even think about anything until Monday, right? I mean, I gathered some due diligence and different things, but don't pull the trigger on anything, so I think this is kind of how it's going to be. I've said for years on this show, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, but I said for years on the show, because people come on and they'll meet me, call me on the phone, let's talk about what we're going to do. I'm like, no. Something instinctive, innate told me, just like I talked to you for probably a minute and a half, that's a minute and 29 seconds longer than I talk to anybody. So there's something about the spontaneity and the intuition, the telepathy, the creativity, the imagination, the courage, that when you combine those frequencies creates a vibration that is a platform, kind of like a springboard. And I feel like what comes with that is you don't know. We don't know.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
We've been so scared of the dark, yet we all
Yeah.
come from the dark. We all come
Absolutely.
from the holy darkness, the mother's womb.
Absolutely.
I would love to collaborate with you again too, or any of your friends, or 2 or 3 of you at the same time. We've done that before. Those are fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, any creative ideas you might have, talk to Morgan.
Okay.
Let us know. But yeah, and we're looking for some backup host. So you'd be good.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay.
I'm just making a joke, but yes. Yeah, I've always said, this isn't about Morgan and I. It's not about me. It's not about. It's what you said. My personal download and vision has been to create a duplication to the best of our ability of the universal itself, which is always expanding, always adding frequencies, so ever expanding vibration. But what does that look like in layman's terms or human terms? We've got 7.5 billion people on the earth. We got 7.5 billion channels on Soulogy. Everybody has their own channel. Everybody has a piece. And without it, we're not whole.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what that looks like, but that's kind of the way we're headed. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing everything with us. And I look forward to getting to know you more and your friends and whoever comes in the door. Get ready, everybody, because I think this is a preview of what we're going to get the rest of the year.
Yep, you'll be seeing them. Thanks, Todd.
Okay, thank you. Probably be back later. Nothing scheduled, but we'll probably do one. Y'all take care.